You can work hard your whole life up until where you've gotten right now and still want something completely different. And this discomfort that happens, whether it's now or then, isn't necessarily a sign that something's wrong. But what about if your priorities change and your identity change? And what if the life you've built is now organized around an old version of who you were? That's what I'm gonna talk about today. And you might ask, what's wrong with you? But I think the better question is gonna ask, what actually changed about you? And once you uncover and discover that change, you might be surprised with what you find. So here's the question for today. What happens when you outgrow that person that you used to be? You can be grateful for everything you built right now and still want something completely different. I think this is something that some people have a hard time admitting, because you can have the job, the relationship, you can live where you want, you can have the responsibilities you want. And from, a different perspective, it can look great. But inside, it's something may not fit, or you may feel out of alignment. And then you start wondering, what's wrong? Like, what's wrong with me? You can internalize this feeling, but the reality is maybe nothing's wrong. But maybe you've actually changed. And that's completely appropriate. The evolution is appropriate. And think about it. What you wanted, let's say 5, 10, 15 years ago, if you're that old, you may not want that today. And that's cool. And at one point, maybe you cared a lot about what you wore or your career. But now maybe you're thinking more about your time. And, at one point in your life, maybe you focus on people's approval, but maybe you want now more time for yourself to be free and make things according to your own decisions. And this idea of success, you may have had a different understanding then, but now your idea of success is literally completely different. But I think that's a key part of being who we are as human beings. We evolve, we change our priorities, our perspectives, and what we value. Our value system can be completely shifted. But here's where it kind of gets complicated. Everybody's life, including yours, doesn't always change at the same speed. You can be continuously living to an older version of yourself without even knowing it. That's when things actually begin to feel really off and you begin to feel out of alignment, and you still may be doing everything you're supposed to be doing on a daily basis, keeping up with your plans, keeping up with your organization, keeping up with your priorities, going to work like we all do, the responsibilities, and then that aspect of you that shows up for other people. That's great. Doing what you've always done, being you, uniquely you. And, from the outside perspective, that looks great, but internally, you may feel like you don't want this anymore. You may feel like you're out of alignment. You feel like things are pulling at you and you don't understand that. And then, in some situations, things just blow up right in front of you, but to avoid the blow up, to minimize the overwhelm, it's all about trying to take a closer look. And it's not about that, your life may be bad or not that you're ungrateful, but maybe it's life is now being built around priorities that aren't priorities anymore to you. So how do you figure out if something in your life has changed or shifted? I love to start with questions, and I got 5 of them. Number 1, what did I used to want? What mattered years ago? What was I working toward? What did you think, or did I think was gonna make me happy at that time? Number 2, what actually matters in this moment right now? Don't answer the question based upon what you think should actually matter, but what actually matters right now here in 2026, or whatever the year it is that you're consuming this video. Time, family, money, freedom, creativity, security, social impact, personal growth. You can choose more than one, but make it matter. 3rd, what actually changed? Did your circumstances change, or did you gain new insight on something? Did you learn something differently about who you were? Maybe it's just the natural evolution of your growth. Whatever that may be, I want you to put a name to it. Number 4, what am I still holding on to? Because this may be the most difficult one to answer for folks, because sometimes you continue to do things because that's just what you're used to, right? You've been doing it for so long. We're routine based, we're creatures of habit. But sometimes by doing what we do, we're protecting an identity of who we are, or we're protecting something to where we don't want to let people down or keep up an appearance. And sometimes we're afraid or hesitant to change that direction because we may admit to ourselves that either a direction we took was a mistake or we may let other people down. So that's just one aspect. And that's not necessarily something intentional that happened, it just happened because something could have been right for you then and it might not be right for you now. Last question. Once you understand this, once you understand all the steps, all the prior questions, what is one meaningful step I could take right now to make a change? Not a lot of steps, just one action. So let's say you realize you want to be more creative, you want to have more impact. What would a one meaningful step look like toward that direction? Or you may want a better relationship with somebody around you that you've really been meaning to establish, but you have not. What's one meaningful step you could take to establish that connection? Or the big one, the job, you may feel like you're in a career that doesn't serve you. How could you spend maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes a week trying to figure out how you can create a shift? This is where we start, small, but you got to start. And this meaningful step truly just needs to reflect the change that may be already happening deep inside you. So it's a change that you put out into the environment. So there's no longer a mismatch between what you feel and what you do. So, this is something we don't talk about enough. And, I love to talk about these things on this channel. And these are the things that can lead you to eventually to become a completely different individual in a lot of ways. So the time is now to actually maybe embrace who you actually truly are, right? Your natural state, your uniqueness, what truly makes you you. And the goal is to start making those decisions that actually reflect the person who you want to become or who you're becoming. Because it's cool to be grateful for where you came from, but you're not obligated to stay where you came from. You don't have to truly know where you're going yet. That's fine. You ain't got to know the end goal. You just need to have certainty that where you are right now is not where you want to be, and allow your life to begin to reflect that change. And meaningful movements can help create that change. And that's actually how you begin to close the gap. I'm Darren, forward.